to the channel and another build video. So today we're going to be continuing with the Fanhome Fast and Furious Toyota Supra Mark IV. You can see all the parts laid out in front of me. You can see that the kit is really starting to come together now, which is looking really, really good. So now we're going to be continuing with the rear assembly of the vehicle. We've already started the subframe, and today we're going to be working on the wheels, the brakes, the tyres and some of the exhaust assembly in the rear knuckles. So for me at least, it's getting towards the exciting part of the build. So really looking forward to this package and working through this and continuing to build up the rear of the vehicle. So without further ado, let's get building. Right guys, so for assembling the rear right knuckle and brakes, we're going to start by taking the knuckle or suspension on. Action. Right guys, so for stage 33 where we're building the rear right knuckle, we're going to take this section here which is labelled R and we're going to attach 33D to it, which is this section with the curved edge. And I think from the manual we're going to attach it in the following orientation. We're going to just pop it on here, I think, with the curve facing outwards towards me, I believe, like that. Yep, that's what it looks like. And then in terms of attaching that, that's a GM screw. So we've got lots of screws with this this issue. So we'll pop one of those in. See if it goes in without any oil. Yeah, relatively easily. It's all good. Just pop that in. So looking at the manual, that looks to be the orientation we need, but we can double check and change it later if needed. Right, so 33.2, we're then going to, I think, spin it around so we can see the other end, and we can also see this this hole on the bottom, and that's where this piece, 33C, is going to go through, and for that we need an OM screw. Let me just put this one back. So that's this one. Pop one of those through. For that one I will use a little bit of oil and the biggest screwdriver that will fit it, because sometimes, especially these longer screws going into this metal, is actually really difficult to get it in. I found on this kit, just with the powder coating, it's quite thick on the frame. Let's try. If I could get this in, it'd be easier to line it up manually. The alternative is, what I'm going to do now, you can try and get it into the parts before you actually lay the part in position. Generally, sometimes it's a little bit easier. So I can get some traction into the 33C. Then in theory, when I check the orientation of this, lay it back up, should be a lot easier now. Less fiddly. There we go. So it's going in quite easily now, which is good. And there we have it. So that's through there and done. I'll dry that off with a little bit of tissue in a second, but for now that's looking okay. Right, moving on then, we want to, I think, let's just check the orientation on this. So now we've got this facing like so, and we want to take the upper wishbone and we want to push it in to the top of this assembly in that orientation, like so, I believe, from the looks of the manual. Yes, cool. And to attach that, we need an MM screw. What's this? NM. We need MM, which is this one. Kind of one with a washer at the top, just to hold it in place sufficiently. Again, really short this one, so I'm not going to use any oil. On that one. It's a little bit stiff though, to be fair. There we have it. So that's in, like so. Awesome. So moving on, we now want to connect the brake plate onto this assembly. So to do that, we want the assembly in this orientation, and we want to take the brake plate, and we should, if we lay it over, I think it faces that way actually, we should see the holes line up So that one and that one will line up with the brake plate. And to be honest, it almost holds itself in place anyway. So for that, we need QM screws. So let me grab those. These ones. Minute little screws, to say the least. So for those, I will use one of my tiny little screwdrivers just to drive those in. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you guys actually use like a automatic screwdriver. I was thinking of getting one, but I just didn't know if it would be worth the worth getting one really, because the end of the screws I would probably always do manually anyway, so I just didn't know if it was worth doing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I might invest in one of those for the channel. This is a bit fiddly. But yeah, I'd be keen to know if anyone's actually using the automatic ones, just out of interest. Cool, so that is the brake cover attached, and then we can move forward. So turning the page, we have now got 33.5. So for this one, we want to have the assembly in that orientation. I think, yes, yep. So have it in this orientation, then we're going to connect the brake disc. So for that, we've done this a few times now, so you should know the process. So we're basically going to remove the adhesive from here, stick it onto there, and then put the hub over the front of the assembly and then push it on and secure it with a screw. So again, on this one, I'm just going to try and figure out the alignment options. I've spotted the pattern now. Sometimes they're really quite difficult to find, these patterns, to be honest. So yeah, so we'll keep that in the orientation that it's supposed to be in. Then what I will do is grab a knife and just remove this sticker whilst trying to protect my finger. Double checking the orientation there. So you should have 3 plastic dots lining up, plus your 2 screw holes lining up as well. Well, they're not screw holes, to be honest, they're holes from this. And that's it. You just push it together and that's your brake disc. Cool. So then what we want to do is we want to attach this as the hub. So again, for this one, you need to line up the 2 and the 1, which will go that way. Oh, got your 2 that are close together and then your 1 that's far away, which I think goes that way. Yep, looks to be good. And that just clicks in like so. Can be a bit stiff actually, to be honest. One of them was really stiff, but this one's not too bad. Then what we want to do is just take that and place it over our assembly so far. And then we just need to take 33.0, which I think is this tiny little piece, which is, yes it is. And then we're going to place that in the hub and then pop the screw on top, which is an NM screw. So if I just find that, NM, it's this one. And again, that's one with a washer style. And we'll place that over the top, like so. And there we have it. We have got our hub and our brake disc assembly. Awesome. So moving forward from that, we then want to attach our caliper and also the brake line, I believe. Cool. So if we put it in, I'm just going to check the orientation here, guys. So that orientation, and the hub, or sorry, the caliper goes on here with the brake line facing upwards, just here on the inside edge. Not sure about that though. Yeah, there we go. Awesome, cool. So there we have it, and this is going into plastic. So CP screws into plastic, which are these ones. They should be relatively easy to get in. So let's try this screwdriver for that. Calipers sometimes are quite awkward to get in there, but this one's not too bad, to be fair. Sometimes they're really awkward to hold in position while you're screwing them up. But as I say, this one's pretty good, to be fair. So 2 screws in the back of this one, and then we need to attach our brake line, which is always a fun part. Not. So as you can see on this, it's actually got, how do we say, like a slanted edge. So I don't know if I want to keep that slanted edge. I will probably just give it a quick snip and make it flat, because I find applying them when they're flat edged is often much easier. The other one's not too bad, but I often find it much easier if it's flat on the edge. And then, to be honest, this hole is really quite small, so this pin, so it should just push on quite easily. Like that. I could push it down further, but I don't want to risk breaking the pin, and that's it. So that's on there, like so. And that is our assembly thus far. Awesome. So the next step is to retrieve our previously assembled rear axle, which I'll get now. Previously assembled section is here. So what we want to do, again, we're working on the right hand side. As you can see, quite a few of the parts were labelled R and L, so we should be easily identifiable as to what side we're working on, plus we've done the other side already. So on this one, we want to basically attach this onto the vehicle now. So I think we're going to be working with this hole here, and we're going to be attaching this brake line as well. So if we try and line this up, I think this one's going to go through there, and I think this one goes under the vehicle as per the other side. Just trying to see what one is going to be easiest to do first. So we'll pop the top wishbone in. Obviously it's been a while since we did the other side, so I've kind of forgotten how it went, to be honest. Okay, so it's just going to be identical to the other side, literally. So it should be relatively easy. Just checking we've got the orientation of all the parts correct. This goes under, so I will probably pull that back out and pop that under and under. There we go. So that's going to go in there, and this is going to go in there with this little piece in a minute. So let's drive this screw in first, I believe, which is a MM screw. So if I grab one of those, the magnetic force on my screwdrivers is starting to give up, so I will get a new set. There we go. Awesome. So I've got the first one in. And then on the top section, I'm just going to check what screws are going to go in the top section, although it doesn't actually tell us to do that yet. So I will do that in a second with some RM screws. But what I will do for now is attach the brake line. So that is a little bit tricky. Well, very tricky if I'm honest, because it's quite protected in there. So I will just open this up a little bit. How I do that normally is just a screwdriver. I just put a screwdriver in there and rotate it a little bit. That generally opens it up a bit. And then for this one, I probably need to use tweezers. I should get any access to that part because it's under the sway bar, as you can see. So I've got zero access to it, which is a bit difficult to see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go, it's on. Hopefully you can see that in the video. So it's on using the curved tweezers, but making it wider on the aperture definitely made it easier, to be honest. I've got one screw in there. So we just need to pop the 2 screws in the top now. So the top screws, as I said, are going to be RM screws. So let's find those. These ones, long ones. So again, on these, I probably do want to use a little bit of oil just to make it easier, to be honest. So the front one, I'm just seeing what screwdriver will fit. And again, on some of these long ones, I would always say to you guys that a flathead screwdriver sometimes is much easier than a Phillips. So always try both if you are struggling. I'm just going to put this first one in. And that one felt very loose. So I don't know if that is the right screw. I can't get it out, so it should be. But it did feel very loose. So let me pop the other one in through the back. There we go, awesome. So now we've got our top wishbone attached to the rear assembly, and we can proceed with, I think, the bottom of the vehicle now, or the subframe. So 3310, connect the rear arm suspension to the center bracket. So this is telling us to connect this onto this, and then we can do that to that. Okay, so let's do that. So for that, we need another RM screw. Bit too much oil there. So let's just try and get that lined up. There we go. So that's nice and lined up now. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. It might be a bit difficult on the black on black, but yeah, should be visible on the camera with the lights. There we go, cool, so we've got that in there. So then the next step is to proceed with Right, so the next step is to proceed with, I think, the subframe assembly. So this, if I remember correctly, has got a contour. So it should go on like that, and the contour kind of fits the chassis brace, so that we know what orientation it goes in. So to attach that, it is a BM screw. So let's find a BM screw, which is this one, quite a small one. Got a lot of those in this pack for some reason. And again, a little bit of oil on this one, and we can pop that in. I'm going to pop the screw through it first, just to make it a bit easier because it's a tiny part. Get a tiny bit of traction on it, and then hopefully it should be relatively easy to attach that. There we go, so it goes on like so. Cool, and then we can just pop that in to that, try and check the alignment, which is a little bit out, just needs to be pushed in slightly, now out slightly, up a little fraction. There we go. So sometimes it's really quite hard to align those parts. RM screw we need now, which is this one. This one's pretty stiff, I would say. It's a little bit more challenging. There we go. So we should have an assembly that looks identical to the other side, I think the next step is probably to attach, the drive shaft and then the chassis brace. So we will continue into that. Right, so moving on, we want to now attach the drive shaft, which is 33E. So this is going to go, let's just check the orientation now. Yeah, we're still upside down. So this is going to go that way into the hub. And then what we're going to do is obviously place the 33F, which is the outer joint cover, over that. Try and give you a good shot of that on the camera if I can. It's a little bit fiddly because there's so much around it now. And we just want to push that on. Like so. There we go. So we've got the drive shaft and we've got the cover. Then on the inner edge, we want to put the dust cover, basically, 33N. So this is going to go here. So again, I need to get that onto that part, which is now a bit difficult. If I get some tweezers, I need to get it on and then push it over the edge of the differential, which is here. So we just line it back up and then pull it backwards and push it on. So these are rubberized, so they are quite flexible. So now we've got two drive shafts, dust covers and outer covers on there going into the gearbox. So that's perfect. So, or the rear differential rather. Right, so now what we want to do is place the chassis support bracket, which is 33, onto this assembly with some BM screws. Just going to double check the orientation of this. So that one went like that. So this one should go like that, I believe. Just going to double check that. Yep, should go like that. And we need BM screws, I think I said. Yep. Just get a little bit of traction just to hold them in place, and then I can do them up tighter. And there we have it. Should look the same as the other side. Perfect. So now what we want to do is align the rear shock absorber rods with the main chassis. So I'm just going to clear a bit of space. Right guys, so I've now retrieved the chassis assembly from previous issues that we've built up and the rear subframe assembly that we've got that we've just been working on. So now what we want to do, we want to attach these two hoses onto these two connectors here, but to do that they need to go through this tiny little cover to hold them, like so. So this is going to be much easier to do before you attach this into the chassis. So let's just try and push these hoses on if we can. Yeah, which is relatively easy. They do feel quite long, but we'll see how, if they're too long when we start laying it down. So obviously this needs to go underneath here. And what we want to do now, we want to line these shock towers up with that hole there and that hole there, so that once we bolt this in, they're ready to receive their own bolts from the top side later. So I'm just going to try and keep all these cables out of the way. Try and keep the cables out of the way of this side and the other side as well. So you've got quite a few things to line up here, to be honest, guys. So it is a little bit tricky. And also I'm trying to protect the engine from the other side because I don't want to scratch it. So I've got that shock tower lined up and this shock tower also lined up. I've got all my cables where I want them, so I'm happy with them. And they're feeding through here. So I think we're in a good position to pop some screws into the assembly. So these screws are going to be BM screws, and let me just grab these ones. So I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 to do on that side, and then on the back side I think we've got a few to do as well. 2, 1 and 2. So I think we've got about 6 of them to do or so. So I will probably do these back ones first because I think they'll be a bit easier. And I'm not sure whether they're even long enough, to be honest. Okay, they are. I can feel it pulling it down, so that's good. So I'm going to pop the back ones in first because I think it's going to make the front assembly a bit easier, you know, by pulling it into place. So this one is also pulling down, which is good. So I've got those in, but they're not fully tight as yet. And then I'm going to pop 2 in here and 2 in there to pull the front assembly in. Although at the moment it's very far away. So I'm just going to check my suspension assemblies again. And they're in. That one's in. And that one is in. I should be in a good position to assemble from the other side. And then what I'll do now, again protecting the engine, I'm keeping the engine on this scratch proof mat, and I'll screw these front ones in, which look super far away at the moment, so we will see how this goes. Okay, so I had to push it down a little bit, but it's gone, which is good. And then I'm just going to do one the other side. Just to start doing it up evenly, really, guys. Just to share the load, and then I'll try and get the other one in relatively quick. Just to avoid anything snapping. One's in. Now I'm just going to work my way around and tighten them, just to check that everything's bolted in, nothing's going to pop loose. And these back ones. Perfect. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws in there. I'll show you what it looks like up close. You've got 2 there and 2 the other side. You've got the shock absorbers, which should be in their correct position, into that housing, so that we can then put the car down, rotate it over, and we should be able to screw that in and that in to the top of our shock towers. And again, for that we need BM screws. These are really quite small screws, to be honest, to be doing stuff like this, but there are a lot of them, so hopefully it's quite secure. So for these, I'm going to pop them in. Screwdriver might be too big. We will find out. No, perfect. And that is in. Awesome. The reason there was a lot of resistance there and I had to push quite hard on the axle to get it in is because the shocks are really quite stiff on this car. Because it's going to weigh so much, the suspension is really quite stiff. But there we have it. We've got it in there. So it should compress. You should get a little bit of compression in there because everything's fixed now. But as I say, because the kit is so heavy, there's a lot of weight coming. So they are quite stiff. And that is it for stage 33. So guys, for stage 34, we're going to be assembling the rear left wheel. So we've done this a few times now, so it should be relatively easy. And what we're going to do is start assembling it with the 2 sections. So you do want to note the tread on the tyre. The front of the wheel should be with the arrows facing away from me, so that way. So it should be like that. So what I'm going to do is put this side, because it holds the front, into here. Like so. I have preheated the tyre, it's worth mentioning. And then on the back side, I'm going to align these holes and just pop this in on the back side. like so. Just spin it around slightly to get it adjusted. If I can do that, a little bit tricky, but you can use a tiny screwdriver just to align it, pull it into place. That one was not quite small enough, and that's it. Then what we want to do is we want to assemble it from the front side. So we want to take this cover and pop it over like so, and that's it. So then we just need to screw that in using the provided screws, which are ABM screws, and that's it. So guys, for 35, same process basically. Heat the tyre up, push the two sections of the rim in, and again in terms of tread, I'm just going to match it to the right hand side of the vehicle because now we're doing the rear right. So we just want to match the tread to the right front wheel, and then we're good. So again, I'm going to pop the front inner rim section through the tyre, and then try and align the back one a little bit better this time, so my life's a bit easier. There we go. If you do struggle to get them lined up, what I normally do is use a tiny little Allen key just to push through the hole and then twist it until the hole's actually aligned. But as you can see now, this is much, much better now on this one. So again, we'll take our screws. I've got one left over from the previous package, so I use that as my pilot. So we can get one in there, and then we can go from there. So we'll drop that into place and hold it. It's quite difficult to hold them on the end of the screw because we're going into a kind of countersunk rim. So it's quite difficult, but there we go. So we've got one in now. We just need to get the rest of them in. If you guys have been watching my other videos, then I'm looking forward to really getting going on the Ducati that I've got, the 1299 Panigale R Final Edition. So I was really happy when I found one on eBay to get. So I'm really looking forward to sort of bringing that to the channel for you guys. So stand by for that one coming soon. And then I'm also building the Ducati from Fanhome as well, the GP23 MotoGP bike. So stand by for that one. I'm waiting for the next package of that one to come. So that should be on the channel pretty soon. Struggling to get this one in actually. There we go. Drop in the comments as well, guys, what you guys are actually working on, what you're building. I'm guessing that a lot of you viewing this are building these kits, but let me know, or let me know what kits you are thinking of getting. I see that Fanhome now have released, or Diecast in Europe, I think they've released the Lamborghini Revolto, so let me know what your thoughts are on that. It looks interesting. For me, I'd probably prefer a Huracan Performante or something like that. Or an SVJ, so I'm not sure whether that one will come to the channel, but drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you would like to see it, and I can consider it for the channel. So there we have it. We've got all of our wheels and tyres now set up. You should see the tread patterns match on the left and on the right, and we're good to proceed. So guys, for stage number 36, we are going to start building the drive shafts. So we're going to take 36D, which is this section here, and we're going to take 2 EP screws, and we're going to connect this into 36F, which is just going to sit through the middle there. I'm just going to check the distances. It looks to be ubiquitous. It looks to fit in any particular direction, so I don't think it matters what way you fit it. And we'll just pop 2 of those screws through. Again, I'm just going to see if I can get a little bit of traction in there before I try and position the parts, just to make it easier. There we go. And then I'll attempt to hold this into place, get it screwed in, which is not too bad. There we go. So yeah, pre-screwing it really, really helps on some occasions. Then you just need to hold it into position, which I can do with some tweezers. Just got a little bit more to tighten up. Let me try and hold it actually with some pliers, probably easier to be honest. So if I just hold that there, I should be free to do it up like so. There we go. So it should look something like that. Perfect. And then what we want to do is we want to take 36E and attach that on the other side, I believe, like so, just to connect it onto the other end. And for that, again, EP screws, same process. I will probably do the same thing, try and get a little bit of traction into the plastic before I align the parts. There we go. And then we can screw it in. Done them up a little bit too much, to be honest, a fraction too much. So I'll just back them off and get the part in, and then I can do them up. There we go. Much easier now because we're going against the direction of the other one, so I don't really need to hold it as much. And there we have it. So you should have your two drive shafts connected, one end looking like that and one end looking like that. So now on this side, we want to retrieve the gearbox output shaft assembly from issue 12, a long time ago, and put that on the end of here. So let me just grab that. And actually, right guys, so in my case, I actually cannot find that part. I do remember receiving that part, but I can't find it, so I will have to request that part again from Fanhome. So that's 12E. So in the meantime, I'm not going to fit this part, but what I will do is fit the exhaust shield. So that obviously will go over the top of the drive shaft. So if I flip the vehicle over, like so, where we were going to fit that was through here. So what I will do is kind of leave that blank for now, which for me, even if I can't get a replacement, doesn't really bother me. The car's going to be on its stand and in the display case. I'm never really going to pick it up, to be honest. So what I will do is fit 36A over the top, and just looking at the orientation of that, it looks to go that way, and it looks to just push in. So I'll just push that in to the chassis, make sure that it's secure, and that's it for now. And then if I want to, I'll come back and fit that later retrospectively, but for now I'll leave that off. Right, so then what we want to do is flip the vehicle around, I believe, this way. And we want to fit the muffler heat shield. Now you can see here, and I know a lot of people highlighted this online, the assembly instructions differ. So 36.6 it's here, 30, well, and then on completion it's the other side. So for me at the moment I'm going to fit it on the other side, and then we'll double check and we'll see where it ends up on the final assemble vehicle. So in the manual it looks like the exhaust is going to come out on the left hand side. So we will fit it on this side for now. And again for that I'm going to use the IM screws, which are these ones. one in there. Now we'll just do the other one. Like so. So hopefully that's in the right position. If not, we can just pull it off and swap it around. It's not too much bother. And we'll go from there. So that is in and on, and then we're going to use 2 more IM screws to attach the other section, which is just checking the orientation. So if we flip the chassis back over so it's upright, and we're going to fit a section here which is 36B, which is this section, and this is going to be facing outwards here, and that is the fuel inlet, which is going to go off to the fuel tank. So for that we will just screw that in as well. And that's now nice and secure, like so. And we can move on. Right guys, moving on to stage 37, we're going to start assembling the fuel tank. So first thing, we're going to take the fuel tank inspection cap, which is this one, and we're going to place this into the fuel tank top cover. So you can see there's a little nodule on it. We'll just push fit that in on the orientation that it wants to go in on, and then we're just going to screw in an IM screw an AP screw into that part to hold that in. I could do that. Like so. And then the next step is we'll use that in a future stage, but that's it for this step, to be honest. So we move on to 38. So guys, for stage 38, we're going to start assembling the catalytic converter and the exhaust pipe. So first step is to take the lambda sensor, and we're going to pop this into the highlighted holes on the catalytic converter. It's got 2 pins on that, and that will go in, leaving 1 pin exposed, which no doubt is going to take a one of the little hoses later. And that's it for 38A. 38.2, we are going to place the heat shield over this catalytic converter. I think I'm just double checking the orientation here. So with the bezeled edge facing the beveled edge on the other one, like so. So the holes align, and we leave the sensor exposed on the back side. And for that, we're going to use 2 TP screws to keep that fixed in. So I need a tiny screwdriver for these ones because they're very small. I'll just screw these in from the inside manually, like so. There we go. So it should look something like that once the heat cover is on. Then what we're going to do is we're going to attach the converter heat shield on the other side. So again, we are going to, I think, keep the bezeled edge towards the other one, which would be this way. And we'll have that like that. And again, I think we're going to use an AP screw on that actually. And we're only going to do this hole, the inner hole, on that one using an AP screw. So it's a different screw. Let's do that. It's a little bit bigger, this one. Just interesting. Don't know why we need a longer one there because it looks identical, but never mind. And then on the upper one, we're actually going to take the opportunity to fit this don't know what this is. This is a bracket. So we're going to fit this bracket on there. I'm not really sure what orientation this bracket should go in. That way. Should go like that, because that's where the hole aligns. And for that, you need a CP screw, so a different screw. So we're using a lot of different screws on this one. So just be a little bit careful. Let me get that on the screwdriver first, just to make my life a little bit easier. There we go. I'll just screw that in like so. There we have it. Awesome. So I think we're probably ready to join this up with the other parts. So in terms of orientation, it will go this way with the lambda sensor further down, and we're just going to line these two pins up on the inside. See those two pins there? So we'll line those up before we push anything in. They should align. They do look a little bit out to me. So let's just double check. We've got them lined up before we apply any pressure. There we go. And there we have it. So that just push fits together. So you've got your lambda sensor on the inside, and then you've got your bracket on the outside, which will hold it. And that is it for the catalytic converter and the start of the exhaust pipe. And I believe that is it for this package. So yeah, that's it for this stage, 38, and we'll wrap things up.